guys, Nate Harris here with Stone River Outfitters. Thanks for joining me. In today's video, I'm going to share with you how to tie a modified adaptation of Bob Clouser's famed saltwater original that has, in recent seasons, earned a solid reputation for deadly success here along our rich and abundant northeast seacoast. Lighter in weight, thus easier to cast, and guaranteed by design to always keel true, swimming hook point up throughout the retrieve, this simple all-purpose baitfish imitation mimics well the slender-bodied sandeels and silversides upon which our striped bass, bluefish, false albacore, and bonito all voraciously feed. Known locally by we who tie and fish it as the Improvised Jig Clouser, let's go ahead and get started. We'll begin by clamping a 1/0 stainless steel Eagle Claw 413 series jig hook firmly in our vice jaws as shown, with a hook sharpened point and its unique bent 60-degree eye leg both facing up. Then, with our hook firmly positioned, we'll next take in hand our bobbin, preloaded with a spool of Danville's 140 denier Flymaster Plus, color white, and we'll start by installing a nice, tight wound jam knot, placed 1/4 of an inch or so behind our upswept eye leg. Naturally, once snug, we'll go ahead and rid ourselves of the excess thread with a quick careful tug. Next, to provide our fly just enough weight to ensure a seductive jigging motion when stripped, we'll select a single hourglass-shaped set of Spirit River's machined 3/16" dazzle eyes. Then with our eyes slid carefully into position along the hook shank's belly side bottom, we'll next go ahead and mount the dazzle eyes about 1/4 of an inch or so behind the upswept leg, using a carefully controlled series of successive, well-placed, and notably tight drawn figure-8 thread wraps. Once loosely mounted, we'll then take a few more final, snug-drawn circular turns with our bobbin around the dazzle eye's base to help choke and constrict our figure-8 wraps tightly, followed of course by a quick, manual centering of the eyes if need be too. Then with our thread purposely positioned behind our hourglass eyes, we'll now begin working on the Jig Clouser's belly. To create this, we'll grab in hand our flat, pearl, Bill's body braid, and after snipping a comfortably long 4 to 5 inch working length, we'll next go ahead and affix the braid snugly to our hook shank, immediately behind our eyes, using a few nice tight, well-placed thread wraps. Once secured, we'll then bind our body braid smoothly rearward towards the hook bend using evenly spaced turns, continuing until we've at last reached our stop, located about halfway between the hook sharpened point and the hook barb. Once there, we'll next simply advance our thread quickly forward again in smooth, evenly spaced fashion, continuing until we've reached a comfortable rest with our bobbin and thread positioned just in front of our machined dazzle eyes. Then, using a firm grip and a smooth-drawn hand-over-hand approach, we'll begin winding forward in continuous, close-wound fashion our Pearl's Bill body braid, creating, of course as we go, a smooth, handsome, realistic-looking, strike-enticing baitfish belly. Once forward towards our head, we'll take a moment to make a quick smooth figure-8 pass with our braid over and around our eyes. And once forward of them, we'll then tie off our body braid snugly against the hook shank using a few well-placed thread wraps. And naturally, once secured, we'll then lift and trim away the excess braid neatly at its base with a quick close snip from our scissors. Next, to create the Jig Clouser's underwing, we'll go ahead and grab in hand a high-quality, select-grade, bright white bucktail, and we'll snip from the white bucktail side a nice long sparse pencil-width bunch of fine straight hairs. After ridding the clump's base of its short residue and waste, we'll next take a moment to give our clump a brief coarse hand stacking to help even up the hair tips a bit. And then, with the clump's roughly evened, fine tapered tips facing rearward, we'll next go ahead and proportion our wing so that it roughly equals about twice the total length of our hook shank. A quick transfer of the bunch once measured to our offhand, followed by a neat tidy snip made just forward of our pinched measured mark, and after applying a small drop of Zap-A-Gap or a thin dab of deep penetrating head cement to the fresh trimmed hair butts, we'll next go ahead and mount the white underwing firmly along the hook shank's top, squarely above our dazzle eyes, using a few well-placed, tight-wound figure-8s. A few more smooth, forward-wound, neatly tapered thread wraps to help bind and conceal any front protruding hair ends, and after a brief rolling twist of the bucktail with wet fingers to help tame any loose unruly hairs, we'll now begin working on the Jig Clouser's highlighted midwing. To create this, we'll grab in hand a select quality yellow-dyed bucktail, and we'll snip from it another nice long, notably sparse bunch of fine straight hairs. Once trimmed, we'll then take a moment to prepare the yellow clump as we did the white by clearing its base of any short unusable hairs and roughly leveling by hand the fine tapered tips. We'll then take a moment to measure our midwing, ensuring like the first that it roughly equals about twice the total length of our hook. Then, after another quick transfer of the bunch, and another neat tidy pre-snip to rid ourselves of the excess forward ends, followed of course by another small daub of cement, made neatly to the fresh cut hair butts, and once ready, we'll then go ahead and mount our yellow midwing squarely atop the white using a few more well-placed, tight-drawn thread wraps. A quick figure 8 or 2, perhaps once snug, around both our eyes and wing to help draw the bucktail neatly into position, and we'll then go ahead and bind down in smooth tapered fashion any remaining exposed front-facing hair ends. Next, to create ourselves a realistic looking lateral line, we'll take in hand a package of nice, bright, pearly silver flashabou, and after snipping from the hank 3 or 4 nice long full-length strands, we'll next gently bend, then pinch the flashabou evenly and equally around our white tying thread. Then using our bobbin as a guide, we'll carefully steer the pinched flash neatly into position. After a quick division of the strands equally along both the near and far sides of our wing, we'll then go ahead and lock our lateral line neatly in place using a few well-positioned thread wraps. Once satisfied with our wing and flash's appearance, we'll next take a moment to quickly install, just behind our upswept eye leg, a nice, neat, snug wound whip knot. Naturally, once taut, we'll then go ahead and trim away our white thread cleanly at its base with a quick close snip from our scissors. Next, we'll take a brief moment to quickly change out tying threads, removing from our bobbin the white and replacing it with a fresh new spool of Danville's 140 denier, color olive. We'll then restart our olive thread by placing a quick wound jam knot comfortably in front of our dazzle eyes. And naturally, once snug, we'll again rid ourselves of the excess with a quick tug. Then, to create the Jig Clouser's dark tone minnow back, we'll take in hand a high quality, select grade, olive dyed bucktail. And as we did earlier with both the yellow and the white, we'll then snip and carefully prepare from the olive bucktail side another nice, long, notably sparse bunch of fine straight hairs. Of course, once cleaned and evened, we'll again take a moment to proportion our olive top wing a bit longer than before so that it roughly equals 3 or so times the length of our shank. And after another quick tidy pre-trim, ridding ourselves of the excess forward ends, followed naturally by yet another small daub of cement made to the fresh cut hair butts, and we'll then go ahead and mount the olive top wing immediately above the yellow, just forward of our eyes, using a few carefully controlled, tight wound thread wraps. Once squarely mounted, we'll then bind forward in smooth, level sloping fashion any remaining exposed forward protruding hair ends, and once neatly bound, we'll then begin building rearward using smooth, continuous, carefully laid thread wraps, a nice, neat, handsomely tapered head of solid olive thread. Finishing purposely with our thread at the olive head's rear, we'll then take a moment to give our wraps a brief firm pinch or two to help settle and flatten any loose winds or ridges. And once satisfied with our head's appearance, we'll then go ahead and prepare the fly for completion by installing a nice, smooth, carefully controlled, long wound whip knot. A brief snug pull with our bobbin perhaps to help ensure our whip knot holds. And once satisfied, we'll then go ahead and trim away our olive thread neatly at its base with a quick snip from our scissors. Next, we'll take a brief moment before finishing to carefully part with our bodkin the bucktail fibers, dividing them evenly and equally along both the near and far sides of our hook bend. And after a final rolling sweeping twist or two, and a quick firm pinch of the wing as well, to help tame and align any loose unruly hairs, we'll at long last end this fly, like we do most of our saltwater bait fish, by applying a nice, liberal bead of clear, quick-curing epoxy, or a nice heavy drop of high-quality, thick-billed, deep-penetrating head cement drug neatly and evenly with care, not only around both the top, sides, and bottom of our olive-tapered thread head, but neatly and evenly around both the near and far side edges and around the bottom side base of our machine dazzle eyes too. Well friends, there we have it, the Improvised Jig Clouser tied start to finish. This simple, lightweight, easy to cast, true-keeling adaptation of Bob's infamous original has truly proven an all-purpose, all-seasons, all-species killer indeed. The first and often only fly I reach for when plying our northeast seashores, be it on the prowl for big hungry stripers and slammer blues, or fast-moving false albies and green bonito too. If I could only carry a single, solitary fly in my saltwater box to target any and all with equal confidence, the Improvised Jig Clouser would be the one. Hey gang, thanks again for tuning in today. Do please remember to visit us on the web for all your fly fishing and fly tying needs, and as always, snug wraps and tight lines to all.